Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brittany of BrittanyJJones.com. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the channel. I hope that you will like what you see and subscribe below for more. In today's video, we are going to be sewing. We're going to be sewing along to the new McCall's 8421. This is a Mrs. Knit scrub top, pants, joggers, and cap pattern. I will be following along with View B on this pattern. Go ahead and cut out your pattern pieces and let's get started sewing. Again, we're going to be sewing along to McCall's 8421, and I will be making View B in this sew along. If you have any questions concerning the best fabrics for this pattern, be sure to look on the back. There is a list of suggested fabrics here. For me, I am using a cotton spandex blend for the fabric for this top. Let's go ahead and get started. To begin, we're going to grab our front piece for View B, which is pattern piece number 8. You should have cut that out on a fold. You also want to make sure that you transfer all of your markings that are on your pattern. Right here at the center point, we're going to do some reinforcing. To reinforce the dot here at the center front, we're going to be stitching right along our seam line of 5/8 of an inch. And we're going to stitch about an inch on both sides of the dot. For me, I'm going to stitch to the dot. I'm just going to pivot and go back up here, stitching again about an inch. Once we have that stitch, then we can clip to the dot. But first, let's go ahead and do our reinforced stitching. We're also going to do some stay stitching along the sides here on our front pattern piece. You should have transferred some notches here. We're going to do a row of stay stitching right here along the edges at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Stay stitching is sometimes done at a 1/2 inch, but for this pattern it's done at 1/8. So again, let's go ahead and reinforce here at the center, and then we can do some stay stitching here along the side. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, once you have your reinforcing done here at the center and your stay stitching along the side, for my stay stitching, I did about 1/4 of an inch, not 1/8 of an inch. That's a little bit more easier for me. So I just did 1/4 of an inch here along the sides between the notches. So make sure that you have the reinforcing here, and once you have that, we can go ahead and clip to the stitching, but do not clip through it. Once you have it clipped, we can put this to the side and start to work on the pockets. To begin working on our pockets, which is pattern piece number 3, the first thing that we want to do is press under 1/4 of an inch along the upper edge. For me, I always like to do a serge edge on mine, but that's totally optional. You can just press under 1/4 of an inch like so and give that a press. Once you have it pressed under like so, now we're going to fold it onto itself. So this is the right side of my fabric here. I press this under going toward the wrong side. So you want to fold that under. And now I'm going to bring it over with the folded edge right here along the sides where you have those circles. For me, I place clips at the fold line. So you just want to fold it right over along the fold line. And now we can go to the sewing machine, and you want to stitch along the seam line on the raw edges. So our seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. So we're going to stitch all the way down across the bottom and up the other side as well, making sure that we keep this folded. We're going to be stitching that at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So let's go ahead and do that now, and then we can trim this facing seam allowance after we have it done. Now that we have it sewn, now we can trim up here on our facing area. So I'm just going to cut off of all of the facing. And I'm going to come in here and cut just a little bit of the fabric. So that it looks like so. So again, you want to cut away all of the facing. And then I'm just going to come up here and just trim a little bit of the fabric also, just to eliminate some more of the bulk. Now we can flip this to the inside. You can poke out your corners. And let's go ahead and give that a really good press. And we can also press in our raw edge here, right along the seam line. So let's go ahead and just press the pocket in place. Once you have it pressed up, for our inner corner here, you can see that I have pressed mine. So we don't just want to fold the pocket over like this and stitch it. What we want to do is we can fold up the corner here right up to our stitching line, and then we can fold in the top and the bottom so everything just meets nice and neatly right here at the corner. So you may want to go back to the pressing station and just press up your pocket again. That way it's just nice and clean on our corners here. And then after we have that pressed, we can go to the sewing machine and we're just going to top stitch right here along the top, making sure that we stitch the folded edge closed. So let's go ahead and first press it in place and then do our top stitch. So here's my pocket here. I have it top stitched. So let's go ahead and grab our side front. So this is pattern piece number 9 here. This is the right side front. You should have transferred your circles and your markings. I'm going to take my pocket and lay it right here. Okay, I just realized that this is my upper pocket. I was wondering why wasn't it matching up with the markings here, but this is our upper pocket here. Pattern piece number 2 is the upper pocket. That's what I was just sewing, but we want to go ahead and do those same exact steps to pattern piece number 3. So this is the pocket that will go here. Pattern piece number 3 is our inside pocket for right here. So let's go ahead and again do the same exact steps that we did for this pocket. Let's go ahead and do it for this one here. And then we can match our small dots up here and go ahead and stitch our pocket on. Once you have your pocket all pinned around, now we can go to the sewing machine and we can stitch really close to the sides as well as the lower edge of our pocket. So let's go ahead and do that now. Once you have your pocket stitched on, now we can go ahead and put this to the side and start to work on the pocket band. To start working on our pocket band, we're going to be using pattern piece number 11. It should look like this, and you should have transferred your markings. We're going to fold it with wrong sides facing in half like so. And then we can go ahead and baste along the raw edges. I'm just going to give mine a really good press. I'm not going to worry about basting it, but depending on how your fabric is curling, you may want to go ahead and do a basting stitch. Okay, once we have it folded like so, now we can go ahead and grab our pattern piece number 10. This is our lower pocket. And what we're going to do here is with right sides facing, we're going to match up our notch and we're going to pin in place. So let's go ahead and grab some pins and to go ahead and pin. Again, make sure that you match up your notch and go ahead and pin. Once we have it pinned, now we can go to the sewing machine. We're going to stitch it using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you can stitch again 1/4 of an inch away from that stitch inside your seam allowance. Or you could just use your serger if you have one for that second stitch. That's what I'm going to be doing. So first, again, stitch on a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you can go ahead and finish off your raw edges. Or do a double stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance if you do not have a serger. Let's go ahead and stitch it in place now. Okay, once you have your pocket band stitched onto your pocket, you want to go ahead and finish off your edge. If you don't have a serger, you can always use some pinking shears or a zigzag stitch on your machine and just press your seam going down toward the pocket. So your pocket should be looking like this now. Now let's go ahead and grab our right front. So you should have transferred some markings here. We're going to be matching those up with the markings that's on the top of our pocket band. They should match up like so. So now we just want to match up our pocket. And we can go ahead and pin along the raw edges. Once you have it pinned in place, then we can go ahead and baste it together. So I'm just going to pin here. Again, I'm just pinning along the raw edges of the pocket. Okay, let's go ahead and baste the raw edges together now. Okay, once you have your lower pocket sewn on, you want to make sure you do the same exact thing for your other pocket. Once you have them both basted on, now we can grab the center front and sew our side fronts to that. I'm going to match up my notches and pin both sides in place. Okay, I have both of my side fronts pinned onto the front. I'm going to go ahead to the sewing machine. I'm going to stitch using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, then I will finish off my seams with my serger. All right, now that we have our side front sewn onto our front, this is what mine looks like here along the inside. I finished off my seams and I have them pressed going toward the front. Now we can go ahead and grab our upper pocket pattern piece number 2, and you want to do your upper pocket the same exact way that we did for the lower pocket here. We're going to be putting the upper pocket up here along the left side of our top. So you should have transferred some markings here, and we're just going to line up our pockets with our markings and pin in place. Once you have it pinned matching up with your circles, we can go ahead and stitch along the sides as well as the lower edge of the pocket, the same way that we did for the pocket down here on our right side. Once you have your upper pocket sewn on, we can go ahead and put the front to the side and start to work on the back. For our backs, we're going to do the same exact thing that we did for the front. You want to take your side back, line it up to your back, match up your notches, and pin it in place. Do the same thing for the other side back, pin down the sides, stitch at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, finish off your seams, and press your seams going toward the back. So go ahead and do that now for your back pattern piece. Now that we have our side back sewn onto our back, I finished everything off the same exact way, pressing my seams toward the back just like the front. Now you want to go ahead and grab your yoke pattern piece, and with the right sides facing, we're going to match up our notches and pin in place. I'm going to go ahead and grab the pins, and I'm going to be stitching this using a zigzag stitch, and again using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Let's go ahead and stitch it now. Okay, so I have my yoke seam sewn on. After you have it sewn, you want to go to the pressing station and just press your seam going up toward the yoke. Next, you want to go ahead and grab your front pattern piece, and with right sides facing, we are going to pin and sew our shoulder seams together. So let's go ahead and match up our notches, and then we can stitch our shoulder seams together. Okay, let's go ahead and stitch both of our shoulder seams in place now. Now that we have our shoulder seam sewn, you can go ahead and press your seam going back toward the yoke. And now we can go ahead and start working on our neckband. I'm going to be installing my sleeves doing the flat sleeve method, so I'm going to leave the side seam until after I have the sleeves installed, and then I'll just do one continuous stitch from the side seam to the sleeve. So before I start working on the sleeves, I'm going to go ahead and do the neckband. So again, after you have your shoulders sewn, go ahead and press your seam going back toward the yoke, and now let's do some stay stitching along our neckline. Again, stay stitching for this pattern is done at 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do mine at 1/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead and do the stay stitching now. Okay, after we have our stay stitching done here along the neckline, we can put this to the side and go ahead and grab the collar. For pattern piece number 6, what we're going to do is fold the neckband with wrong sides facing. So the right sides of your fabric should be facing out toward you. If you do not transfer your markings and the notches, you definitely want to go back and do that. I transferred them on one side here, so I'll make sure that I have this side up so that I can make sure I'm matching it up to the neckline edge. But again, we're going to fold the neckband in half with wrong sides facing, and from here you can go ahead and press it in place, or you can baste the raw edges together. I'm going to press mine first, and again just see how my fabric stays together. Again, let's go ahead and fold it and either press or baste it in place. Okay, I have my neckband. I pressed it, and I also went ahead and basted the raw edges together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to lap the right end of the neckband over the left. So I have it like so, just lapping the right end over the left. So this is what the neckband looks like now after we lap it. Make sure that you have the raw edges even, and we can baste this in place as well. Now that we have basted the raw edges here, we can go ahead and pin it onto the neck edge. I'm going to match up my center circle here. First, I'm going to grab some pins and just pin through. And now I'm just going to start matching up my notches. So you may have to maneuver your neckband a little bit, but just make sure that you have it with the raw edges even and just pin it in place. Okay, I have my neckband pinned on. This did take a little bit of maneuvering, and I may can even slide this pin over here so that it fits in there. So we're going to take our time stitching this on, but let's go ahead and sew our neckband onto the neck edge of the top. Okay, I just got done from sewing on the neckband and I don't like the center here. Instead of doing the zigzag stitch, I'm going to come and do a straight stitch. So I'm hitting a clear point. That way it's a little bit more sharper here. I think I would prefer that a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I feel like a zigzag stitch will work better if I was doing like a crew neck. But with this V, you really want a nice sharp V. So if yours turns out like mine, consider maybe just doing a straight stitch. If not all the way around, definitely at the point. Okay, here's my neckband here. I've sewn it a little bit. I'm not 100% happy. I'll just be honest with that. I don't really like that puckle. But once you have your neckband sewn on, you want to go ahead and give everything a really good press. And now we can go ahead and install the sleeves. For the sleeves, I'm going to install the sleeves using the flat sleeve method. So you want to make sure that you grab your right sleeve here. You want to make sure that you match up your markings and start to pin it in place. So this is my shoulder seam here, and my double notches matches up to the back. So I'm going to pin that in place. So now we can go ahead and pin the remainder of the sleeve in place. Once you have it pinned, you can go ahead and pin your other sleeve the same exact way. Make sure that you match up your circles and your notches. And we're just going to stitch it in place. You can use a zigzag stitch for this stitch. And then after you have it sewn, you can go ahead and finish it off with your serger or your pinking shears or zigzag stitch. Okay, now that we have our sleeve sewn in, you can see here I have sewn my sleeves in. I also went ahead and finished the seam off with my serger. So now we can place our top right sides facing, and we can sew in one continuous stitch our side seam and underarm seam. So go ahead and grab your pins. I'm going to clip away some of my loose threads here. And I am going to match up my underarm seam here. Make sure that is together. Match up the notches on my sleeve. Pin that in place. And continue pinning down the side seam, matching up that notch as well. So let's go ahead and stitch our side seams and underarm seams in place now. Okay, once you have your side seams sewn, the last thing for us to do is to do the narrow hem on the lower edge of our top, as well as the narrow hem on our sleeves. So again, once you have your side seam sewn, you can go ahead and give your top a really nice press. And then the last thing for us to do, again, is to do a narrow hem on the lower edge of our top here. You can either choose to do a double fold for your narrow hem, or if you want, you can just fold it up. Maybe you have a cover stitch machine or you have a twin needle. Maybe you want to finish it off with that. I don't want to run it through the serger because I don't want to stretch this out too much. So I'll probably just do a double fold and then just do a stitch close to the inner fold on the lower edge as well as to the sleeves. Once you have that done, you are all done with your top. Again, we made view B on McCall's 8421. Well, that is all for the video, and I really do hope that you all enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Blessings, everyone. Bye.